In 1917, Konosuke Matsushita was founding Matsushita Electric Industrial. In 1945, in August 15, the Emperor of Japan was declaring at the radio their surrendering. Therefore, the end of World War II. At this point, Matsushita Electric Industrial was owning 67 factories, from which 39 they had to be confiscated and surrendered to other countries. 17 of their other branches were forced to become independent companies. At the same time, in 1946, Matsushita was declared by the government Zaibatsu. That meant it was owned by the government. This Zaibatsu family was actually a big trust of companies that were handled by families with important names at the same time that they were, let's say, in bed with the government. That meant all the prices were set by the government, and at the same time the government said that Matsushita shouldn't be the CEO anymore. At this point, Matsushita was really upset because from 1917 he actually built one of the greatest companies in Japan. And it wasn't his fault that in 1938 the former government was actually militarization of the big companies. That meant the Matsushita Electrical Industrial, they weren't producing electrical parts anymore, radios or heaters. They were producing parts for the army, parts like wood for building planes or ships. In the biography of Matsushita and his personal journal, he said that most of the Japan culture didn't know how to produce this type of products. They didn't have the knowledge like Europeans or Americans. In 1946, because he was declared Zaibatsu, he actually was again in bed. He was well known that being an ill person, nobody knew what happened to him because the disease that he suffered wasn't discovered. Some of the doctors would assume that it was tuberculosis, but they could not say for sure. So in 1946, he was in bed. At that time, there were about 27,000 employees on the branches left. In 1947, because the government was actually putting more restriction in these factories, the company remained only with 8,000 employees. You can imagine how frustrated and upset Matsushita was. And at this point, he started to go to the current government and explain to them that he was actually forced to produce for the army. He had also papers, and he started to gain from his employees, signature to support this decision. And the syndicate of Matsushita Electric Industrial was raising about 50,000 signatures from his employees to send it to the government to support him to be the CEO. For the next 4 years, Matsushita, either it was ill or not, he was taking routes between Osaka and Tokyo, about 50 routes, to explain and sustain this decision to the government. In 1949, actually, the Japanese government sustained that and declared that indeed Matsushita should remain the CEO. In 1950, Matsushita tried to and also succeeded to expand his business globally. In 1950, there are pictures of him going to America. And in the period of 1950 and 1965, he actually managed to be one of the greatest company in Japan again. My question to you now is, do you think that Matsushita would have succeeded if he would just give up? Matsushita Electric Industrial, it's now Panasonic. So do you think you could have enjoyed all the electronics from Panasonic until now if Matsushita would have surrendered after the war and said, okay, that's it, they should have my company? Do you think you could enjoy just having a Windows into your home if Bill Gates would just give up on the first fail? You see, a lot of the products and services that makes your life easier or brings you joy, they were once thought by someone like you. So my advice, and actually my question to you, it is why you should give up on yourself and why you should give up on your dreams.